Don't forget to click that subscribe and bell icon to receive a notification each time I upload a new video. Hi everyone, it's Mike here and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So unusually for me, I'm showing you an art journal page that I've created that I didn't film. There is a reason. So on Sunday we had a bit of a domestic kind of day where we did all kinds of chores, cooked a big Sunday lunch, did the garden, weeded, mowed the lawn, trimmed back plants and deadheaded and all that kind of stuff. We had a rather nice day because it was sunny. After we'd finished, Ian went for a lie down because he wasn't feeling very well. So I was kind of like just me and Mr. Bentley on our own. So we sneaked into the craft room and I sat and I created this art journal page just for me. And as you can see, I've used some of those Tim Holtz remnant rubs. Just in scrappy places, just to give a little bit of background detail, and then used what's called a spotlight technique, where I laid down a circular mask and then went over the top with some distress inks. I then stamped into the centre of that spotlight with that butterfly stamp. This is a butterfly stamp from Indigo Blue. I'll show you it in a second. And then afterwards I went over the butterfly with some glossy accents. Obviously there's some ghosting in the background with stencils and water just to lift some of that, and a few splatters to lift as well, just to give it that kind of like motley effect. But you can see the gloss on that butterfly and I think it works rather well. I watercoloured the butterfly first using the distress inks that I'd used for the background, so all the colours tied together. So there's some nice greens in there, just some yellows and oranges and reds. I think it worked really, really well. So well, in fact, or I liked it so much, I wondered whether or not it would translate easily to the front of a thank you card. So that was my next job, was to sit down and create a smaller version of that larger card. Now, instead of using the remnant rubs, I just used some stamping and a little bit of stenciling in the background. But I've still used the same butterfly stamp from Indigo Blue and then picked out the butterfly with some colour and then added, as you can see, the glossy accents over the top. So I thought I'd share that technique for making the cards today, because you'll be able to do, I need some more thank you cards anyway. So I thought I'd make some more of these cards and then you can see how it's done, so you can then translate that into an art journal page if you wanted to, just by scaling it up a little bit. There you go, you see. Ta-da! So that's what we're going to do today. So the size of the card is European A6, which is similar to American A2 size. That's A2. And that's European A6. So you can see they're virtually the same size. One's just a little wider and one's a little bit taller than the other. So let's just put all that to one side. So the dimensions of the A6 card is 105mm by 148.5mm, which is 5 7/8 and 4 1/8. These measurements here are for the smaller sized mount for your front. So if you're wondering what that was in American sizes, so it would be 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and then your mount would be probably a 1/4 inch smaller than that, or if you wanted to go, is it 1/4 inch? Yes, about 1/4 inch smaller. So it'd be 4 by 5 1/4, just to do your mount, to make it the same sort of size to fit. So on to the actual card itself. So all I've done is I've punched out a circle of paper using my EK Success 2.5 inch circle punch. Now this is the same circle punch that I use for my artist trading coins, and then you can place your masking circle down. Now I've just put some temporary sticky tape onto the back. Here in the UK we can get these tape pens or tape rollers or snails, if you like, from one of our craft department stores. If you want, it's from the range. The blue is the temporary, the red is the permanent. So useful to have, particularly when you've got these kind of things that you want to do. So I've got 3 colours of, I don't know what that's doing there, off you go. I've got 3 colours of distress ink. I've got twisted citron, wild honey and candied apple, which work really well together on this kind of card, and you can see how I've kind of blended those colours to get you that nice almost an ombre effect, but not an ombre effect, if you know what I mean. Excuse me. So I'm going to start off with the wild honey, just load up my foam, and then starting in the middle of the circle. Now we've gone left to right on this one, so top left down to bottom right. Let's do it the opposite way on this one. So start in the middle and then just work your way out. And you don't have to be really exact with this kind of thing. It doesn't really matter. No 2 cards will be exactly the same anyway. Just because you'll do stuff in a different way, unless you mask it off to do perfect stripes. If you know you're OCD and you like perfect stripes, then like I said, they're not going to be identical. So then we'll move on to the twisted citron. Again, start on there and then just move that across. Do a little bit of blending, but not a lot. Then I'm going to flip that round, start on there and then come off the side. And how much of this colour you put on is entirely up to you. You could just stop at the 2 colours if you want to. Let's go back and just add a bit more of that wild honey just to blend those colours together. And then to finish off, do your corners in the red. Pick that back up, blend those. Flip that around. And then just gently bring it up towards the green. And then you can blend out those colours. So you get that nice kind of effect. And I've got fingerprints in mine now because I've picked it up. There we go. So we've got rid of those. So that's still wet. Okay, so I'm going to add some splatters into the background. So just with the edge or the tube from a mister bottle. You go as heavy as you light as you want on that. Leave that just for a second for that ink to reactivate again. I'll just grab a quick wet wipe just to get rid of that excess. There we go. And you can see how it started to reactivate that ink just to give you that kind of like motley effect. And then all you have to do is just grab some kitchen roll and then just blot the water off. There we go. So you've got some of that nice kind of mottling. If you want to add some more, you can add some more. But I want to add a little bit more kind of detail on the background, so I'm going to use this stencil, sorry. This is the arabesque stencil, my arabesque stencil, and I'm just going to lay that over the top, and then you can either use another colour like vintage photo or something like that, or you can use one of the other colours that you've already got, like in that red, and just add a real small section just to give a little bit of detail in that background. You don't need a huge amount, but make sure you leave your circle mask on until after you've done all this, because otherwise you'll end up doing your stenciling and you'll go into the white, and you don't want that to happen. Or do you? I don't know. Maybe you do. Okay, so I'll just try and get rid of that bit of ink on my fingers. Inky fingers. Okay, so I've now got my little stamp, which is a French script. It's illegible script. You can use any kind of scripty stamp if you want to, just to add a bit of detailing onto the background. And you can add this to a stamp block, whichever you want to do, or you can just do it freehand. Just add a little bit. I've got an arrow just to show me where up is, so that the text, even though it's illegible, it does have loops on the letters, like on the G's and that kind of thing. So if you get it upside down, although it's not imperative, you can actually tell that it's upside down. So, and I'm only putting a little bit of ink on the stamp. I'm not going mad. Yeah, just a tad, as the saying goes. Okay, so we're going to now remove, I think everything's just about dry, we're going to remove the mask. Haha, looking good. And then bring up the stamp press. I've already got my stamp positioned on the stamp press. I'll show you the stamp set. Okay, so it's called Drips and Textures, and it's this one we're going to use from the set from indigoblue.com. So Drips and Textures, and it's that one. You get some other textures on that as well, some bubble wrap, some like grid ledger paper, what looks like a trainer, and just some drips on there as well, but I've not used those. Let's take the lid off that for a second, and then position the card. So I've positioned this so I know exactly where it's going to fall on the card, right across the middle. So I made sure that I made a note of where it fell or where it needs to go on the stamp press. I mean, you can do this freehand if you want to. You don't have to use a stamp press. You might not have one. Ooh. Just caught the edge of that mat for a second. Actually, we're done with those. We should put them away, really. Just to avoid what I've just done. Just knocked everything flying. We'll need that stays on. Right, so I'm going to ink up the stamp. Because we're using the stamp press, if we don't get a brilliant first impression first time, it don't matter, because we can go back and do it again. Put some pressure down on it. So we need some more. Use the heel of my hand. Just move it around and just keep on going until you're happy. It's the actual body of the butterfly we need the most on. Yeah, we're getting there. The amount of times you need to do this depends on how juicy your ink pad is. Okay, so move that to one side. And I think you've pretty much done, apart from adding in a little bit of your detail on your butterfly. So I'm going to just grab a water brush, come back in with that candied apple, and I think I'm going to switch over just to get a little bit of a yellowish. So I've got fossilised amber. So I just wet and then just pick up a small amount just off the pad, and then just watercolour that in. Just nice and light. I mean, you could use distress markers or whatever you want. So just quickly whip round. Just let the water do its thing. There. And then we'll just need to leave that to dry for a minute or two. Okay, so that's had a few minutes to sit and dry. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add my glossy accents. So just open that up, and then I'm going to just go around the outside, just drawing with the nib, and I'm making sure I cover the butterfly's body all the way around, and then fill in the inside. Of course, this will take a good 20 minutes to half hour before it even gets touch dry. So that's when we'll come back. But for you, it's just going to be a few minutes. Okay, it's actually been a good hour and a half, I think. It's taken for that glossy accents to actually dry. In fact, Ian and I have both had lunch, and it was a rather lovely lunch too, thank you very much. But also, while I was waiting for the glossy accents to dry, I made 2 more cards, 2 other cards. So I'll bring the first one in, using the same technique, but this time I used the Tim Holtz Noble Gent stamp set. So I used Cuthbert here, the Imagination, the Rays there, and then the Proprietor of Ideas. But the background idea with the spotlight is exactly the same. Instead of stenciling, I ghosted to get the dots with my bubble wrap stencil, which was that one, which you've seen before. And the little bits of writing are just that same French script stamp from Indigo Blue, the collected edition one. So I did that, and the colours I used for this one was Cracked Pistachio, Rusty Hinge, and then I went round the outside with Vintage Photo Distress Ink. So that was, like I said, the same idea, just with a different stamp set. Okay, so just to go one step further, I then made another card. This time using the Indigo Blue Queen Bee stamp set. Oh, sorry, Giant Bee stamp set, which is that one there. Again, I used exactly the same technique. So this time I made the circle 3 inches rather than 2.5, so that's a 3-inch circle because the bee was slightly bigger. And then for the background stamp I used script. So this is a really, really, really old, so old it's got hair on it.
I hate that phrase.
This is one of the very, very early Indigo Blue stamps when they first started, and it's been kicking around my collection for quite a few years. Yeah, quite a few years. And I used just used one press across the card using Rusty Hinge, but for this I used fossilised amber and twisted citron. Then I went round the edge with the Vintage Photo just to give it that dark kind of frame. And I've done that one on a top loader, on a top fold, whereas that one is a side fold. And I've just used white cardstock that Ian has just graciously donated to me because I'd run out of decent white and black cardstock, but they look rather nice. So back to our little project. So all I have to do with this, if I want to create just that little darker frame all the way around, I'll just grab my Vintage Photo and then just go around the edge, just darkening it up a little bit, and that gives us just that tiny bit of darkness, almost like going around and edging your card with a black pen like you've done in the past. You could do this with black soot if you want a real dark frame all the way around, but I just think adding a little bit of the Vintage Photo just into it. Now you notice I'm actually starting off and then going around, just catching those edges, not really going too far into the interior of the card so it doesn't darken up everything too much. So before I stick that down, I'm going to clear away the remnants of that Vintage Photo on the mat, because even though you don't really see it there, it's definitely there. Look, and you really don't want your white card getting all grungy and messy at the back. Okay, so all we have to do now is stick or card front down. So I'm going to just making a mess. So just for ease and speed, I'm going to grab my permanent tape runner and I'm just going to run it down the edges. Now it'll be just my luck for it to blooming well run out, which it has done. I haven't got another one. Thank you very much. I knew you could read my mind. Don't have to fan the end, you're alright. Ian has just handed me a roll of construction tape.
Brand new roll.
Brand new red liner tape. So, there it is. There's the end. So instead of that, we'll use this. So this is the same stuff that we use for the journals. So we'll just snip that off. Come on, don't be a monk. There we go. And then just turn that around. And I know we've already put some on. It's a big roll. Big roll.
And very reasonably priced.
Yes. Was it from the eBay?
It's from the eBay, yes.
Is it a UK company?
It is.
Is it a crafting company or is it a supply company?
I can't remember. I think it's a crafting company. Would you like me to have a look?
If you don't mind.
One
'Cause
moment,
if people are in the UK and they like the big size of this roll, because I know the ones you get from
Oh, some of them are tiny.
some companies.
And it's a rip because they have a big centre and very small outer.
Yeah. So we'll just stick some of that down the... Oh, you want to get in on the act now, do you? Eh? Little fairy creature. I could just use glue, but I don't really want it to buckle. So, there we go, that'll do. That'll do.
Just checking.
Thank you very much. Yes! Are you attention seeking?
It's possible.
Eh? It's noisy. He wants to go back to bed. He stood on one of the beds, staring.
The company
Yes?
is called PSA Solutions 2013.
Right, so it's not a craft company then.
Barely be quiet.
Is it packaging?
Yeah, packaging tape company. They do all sorts of acrylic tapes,
Right.
sticky glue dots, tape dispensers.
There you go. So what was it again?
PSA Solutions Limited.
PSA Solutions Limited. I'll put a thing in the description area below this video. We're not affiliated in any way. We certainly won't be getting paid for that little advert. But if you're in the UK, there you go.
They do glow in the dark tape.
Oh, good grief. Right, so back to it. I've opened another top loader card and I've opened it fully so I can see the borders all the way around. And I'm just going to drop that down. There you go. So I will add an insert saying thank you for these cards later, or I may wait and do one saying happy birthday. You can stamp over the top of that, not a problem. So there you go. So we've got 3 different cards using the same spotlight technique, which isn't rocket science really, and the technique has been around for a while, but all 3 of those could be translated into art journal pages. And I'll just bring that book back in again just to re-show you. There you go. So that is that one. So you could theoretically create some nice art journal pages using exactly the same technique. And if you wanted to do some thank you cards or a birthday card and not really spend a huge amount of time and effort, I mean, they do look pretty spectacular.
That
and
Queen Bee is absolutely amazing.
I know you like that one, don't you?
I do.
I might save that for your birthday then.
Oh, that's fine.
Get rid of the bee.
Nah. Oh, guffaw. Can you hear that noise? I'm splitting. Laughing.
Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed watching me put that card together, but just showing you some variations on what you can do with exactly the same technique, just by changing the colours up and changing these little stamp sets. So I hope you have enjoyed that. If you have, please give the video a thumbs up. It does help spread the word about my YouTube channel to people who may not have heard of me already. Share the video with your friends if you wish to, and if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel for more videos like this one, then you can click that subscribe button at the end of the video. That's all from us for now. That's me, Ian in the background, and Mr. Bentley the dog. We'll see you all again very, very soon. Bye for now. I'd like to say a huge thank you to all of my angels, because without you, these videos would not be possible. Thank you.